Good morning, everybody. My name is Kelly Clement. I'll be your presenter here today. I'm excited to have you all join us here either on GoToWebinar or on YouTube. We are simulcasting this both ways, so welcome. Today we're going to be talking about MetaStock 17 and what MetaStock 17 does, what's included in it. We're going to be talking a lot about the new features, specifically the new features of QuoteCenter and OptionScope, which are two new big power tools that we've included inside MetaStock 17. So obviously you're here to learn today, so if you have questions as we go through this presentation, please feel free to ask them. We'll try and address it. Just know that sometimes there's a little bit of a lag between the webinar and the presentation, so it may take us a second to get to your question. So let's go ahead and get started here. Again, I'm Kelly Clement. On the controls in the back is Greg Lewis. He'll be answering questions on YouTube and letting me know if there's any there. So our very first thing that we always do in a presentation is we quickly show a disclaimer. And the reason I'm showing a disclaimer is because I am not here to show you what to buy or sell. I am basically here to show you how MetaStock works, what MetaStock does, and how you can use it. So don't take any trading decisions based off of what I say today. Just use the software to make those decisions for yourself. So let's go ahead and jump right into what's new inside MetaStock 17. So the very first thing we're going to talk about here is actually a quick overview of what's included in the upgrade. So first of all, we have QuoteCenter and OptionScope, which again are the two new power tools. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide because I want to spend details on where in the software we actually are. So QuoteCenter, OptionScope will be our first things. We're going to talk about legacy file format in the downloader and converting data in the downloader. So if you're using our local data and running offline, this is going to be a very big thing for you. So stay tuned for that. And then here's the other enhancements we're going to talk about as we go through the presentation. So let's go ahead and start with QuoteCenter. QuoteCenter is our big addition, and this works both in end of day and our real-time software. So there's a version of QuoteCenter for both versions. When you're running with QuoteCenter and you're running offline, it can read local data. It can work online with Data Link or also with Zenith. So it works with all the different data feeds. So let's go ahead and go into QuoteCenter, show you what it is, how it works, and what you can actually do with QuoteCenter.
Kelly?
Yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but your slides don't seem to be going on GoToWebinar. Not seeing them. It's still the MetaStock startup screen.
Well, let's try this again. Is that showing now? It should be showing here in just a second. Yeah, it actually looks like it was paused. So now it should be.
Okay, it'll take a second because it lags.
Okay, well, I want to make sure it's not paused before I go on.
Oh, just a second, I pressed that. There we go.
Okay, there we go. Thank you, Greg, for letting me know. So I apologize for that. You haven't missed much if you're watching a GoToWebinar except a few slides here. So now we're going to be getting into the right stuff here. Let's see. So Jacques, I will get to your question in just a few minutes when we get to the options section, and we will go through that. So thank you very much. Yes, we will answer that question here in just a few moments. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into QuoteCenter, and let's go over to MetaStock. So when you open up MetaStock 17 and go into the Power Console, you will notice two new tabs here. So you're going to notice QuoteCenter and OptionScope. So these are the two new power tools that are included inside MetaStock 17. So the first one we'll focus on here is QuoteCenter. Now QuoteCenter is actually good for a couple of different things. One, it's good for viewing your data and actually analyzing your data. But two, it's also good for building lists. So where we're going to start is actually opening your data and looking at your data. And then we'll get through and look at building lists and managing lists using QuoteCenter and its features here. So when you come into MetaStock, obviously one of the big things you want to be able to do is look at your data, see what's going on with your securities. So based off of user feedback, we built QuoteCenter to help you do just that. So let's just say that I want to look at the stocks in the Dow 30. Now it could be the Dow 30, it could be the S&P 500, whatever you want. Let's go ahead and choose the Dow 30. So I'll just choose the Dow 30 constituents here. And you'll notice here to the side, it lists all the instruments that I'm about to look at in QuoteCenter. So let's go ahead and choose Open QuoteCenter. and then QuoteCenter opens up. So let's go ahead and maximize this. So I'm running the real-time version of MetaStock, so I'll talk about the differences and what you'll see when you're going through it here as we go through. But down here, you will see a list of all the different symbols and all the symbol names. You'll see what the last tick is. And then you'll see here last high, low, open, volume. If you're looking at an option contract or you're looking at commodities, you'll see open interest here. And then if here in the real time, I'll also see bid and ask. I won't see bid and ask in the end of day, but it is available in real time. Then you'll see net change and percent change here. The time of the last trade or the date if you're looking at end of day, if you're looking at online or offline data, and then if there's any issues going on with your data. Barton, again, I'll get to your question when we get to options. It seems like we've got some excited options traders in here, so we'll get to your question when we get to the OptionScope. So this is QuoteCenter. So it's going to give us our list. We can go through, we can sort on any of these columns. So if you want to look at last, high, open, close. Now, the other things that you can do here is we can change color themes. So if you prefer dark orange, if you prefer more of a pearl theme, you can look at that. I prefer that dark theme when I'm looking at things. So now when you're looking at QuoteCenter, obviously we're looking at our list of data here. But what I want to do is I want to put that into action, right? I want to be able to see my charts and analyze my charts as I go through. So if I minimize this, since I'm working with one monitor here, I can put it on one monitor, I can put it on another monitor. I'm just going to drag it to the side here in Windows and then put these side by side. And when I have QuoteCenter open, I can actually just go through and I can click the charts that I want to open and it will open them right in MetaStock. So as far as a list management perspective goes, it's much easier now to be able to go through your securities, pull up the ones that are of interest to you and be able to view them very easily. So very easy to open up charts, work with charts. I'm just going to say close all here. So QuoteCenter makes it easy to be able to bounce back and forth between stocks, have a pulse of your list and what's going on. So let's go ahead and show you how now you can use QuoteCenter to actually build and manage your lists as well. So if I open up the Power Console, one of the things that you may have noticed when I selected the Dow constituents here, again, we talked about this. It shows this list here. Now, if I'm opening up the Dow 30, this may be the Dow 30, it may be your portfolio, it may be whatever it is you want to look at. But what I can do is I can actually remove anything out of here. So I can just choose remove, and I can take these down, and you can see my list is going smaller over here. Now, if I open this list back up in QuoteCenter and maximize this, I've got these 29 stocks added. Now, if I wanted to add something to it, it's easy. I can just type, say, Deutsche Bank. I want to add that on there, and I'll add Deutsche Bank down there at the bottom. I can also remove while I'm in here, so I can just right-click and hit delete, or I can highlight something and click delete. If you don't know a symbol, you can always click on the instrument search and look for a symbol there. So it's very easy to add and delete and change things out with your securities. Okay, now if I have a list created, let's say this is my portfolio now, and I actually want to work with this portfolio, save it, I can just come up here, go Save As, and I'll just call this my MS17 demo so I know what this list is. I'll click Save. And now up here at the top, you can see I have my MS17 demo. And if I click down, you can see all the custom lists that I've built, so I can actually bounce back and forth between lists and choose what I want to look at. So it's very easy to move between lists as well. Now, when you're working with QuoteCenter and you've built lists, instead of coming through here and looking for a list that you want to open, as you build your lists, we put them over here in the Use Existing List. So I can actually go back to my Dow constituents here, open up QuoteCenter, and it just opens up that whole list. So it's easier to choose your lists and actually work with them. So this is actually making your life so much easier to be able to work with lists, open securities in MetaStock, and be able to get to the information that you need very quickly. Okay, so there's a few quick things. Now, some other places where QuoteCenter becomes very, very useful is, say, in the Explorer. So let's just say here I have an exploration report. And let's just choose one of my reports here. Okay, so this has 482 stocks in this results list. Well, I can open the charts from here, but to get a kind of a better pulse and work through it, we've added the option to be able to open up all these instruments right in QuoteCenter. And you'll notice up here in the selected instruments, it actually matches my scan title. So I have this 5-day high volume price 2. So it actually links the name of the scan right into QuoteCenter. And then I could save that as a list moving forward. So then I can do it, or I can rename it to, let's just say my watch list. So now I have my watch list saved. Okay. So QuoteCenter is a very easy to be able to use, to be able to run your scans, be able to pull your data up, and get going with it right away. So QuoteCenter is a great app, and I'll tell you this, it's actually really funny. Since I've started working with QuoteCenter, my workflow in MetaStock has changed. It's a lot easier to move between data, get to the data that I need quickly, and get into my trade. So I'm not spending time trying to manage lists, build lists, work with my data. It's all right there. Okay, so let's see. It looks like most of our questions coming in are around options. So we're going to go ahead and jump to the next feature, which is OptionScope. Okay, so this is QuoteCenter again. Here's a quick view of it. You can sort and rank any of your columns. You can click and open your charts. Very easy to manage and work with your data. Building your lists in QuoteCenter, again, so much easier to build and manage custom lists. That's always been one of the big things that people have wanted, is that ability to more easily manage their lists and work with them. So let's go to OptionScope. So I just had a question from Barton. So he's asking, can you rearrange the columns? Yes, that's a very good question. Let me show you that. Let me open QuoteCenter back up very quickly here. And let's just open up the Dow constituents again. So if you want to move the columns around, all you have to do is just drag and drop, and you can put the columns wherever you want them. So if you want to see bid and ask first, you can move them over there and put bid and ask first. The other question you had is, I didn't see prices in the saved exploration list. Actually, what happened there is I had it was pulling those results from a local data list that I didn't have populated anymore. That's the only reason they didn't show up. I just didn't have that local list anymore. So you can bring in local data. Again, it does work if you have, and I'll just show you an example here. If I've got, so this is the S&P 500 local. Oh, let's uncheck some of these. And I'll just bring in some of these into my list. And I'm on a chart. That's why, excuse me. So we'll go to our S&P 500. You can see that's a local data list. I can choose open chart. And when I do that, actually I don't have any data downloaded. And I was working on the downloader. I'll show you that in a little bit. So we'll come back to that. Apologize, Barton. But I will show you that here in a minute when I download the data that I'm going to show you in a few minutes. So we're going to go to OptionScope now. So OptionScope, what is OptionScope? Well, OptionScope is a tool to help us be able to analyze options data. So we're going to be able to look at options data in a grid format. We're going to be able to sort and filter to whatever criteria that we want. And then we're going to be able to chart that options data, which is a very new and unique thing. We're going to be able to explore, system test on options data, and look at all that data. So let's go ahead and look at OptionScope. So here's the screen, but we're going to talk about it. So we're not going to read the screen. So let's go back over to MetaStock. Let's go File, Close All here. Now OptionScope, if we go down to this tab, allows us to put in a symbol, an optionable symbol, and be able to pull it up. Now, if you're running MetaStock real time, which is what I'm doing, the data for options is automatically included in your Zenith subscription. If you're running MetaStock DC or end of day, we are now providing end of day options data for U.S. equities right now. So you could get U.S. equity options data, and that is going to be available as part of the MetaStock subscription package, or if you are actually subscribed to, say, just stocks and indices, you can add it on for an additional $15 a month to get the options data. So this is cool that we now have options data in MetaStock. We're very excited about this. This is something people have been asking for a long time. So let's go ahead and open up Apple. Apple's obviously an optionable stock. So I can either type it in up here, or I can come down here and I can choose Apple from right here and select it either way. Over here, we have some pre-filters that we can choose to kind of narrow down the options that I want to look at. Obviously, something like Apple is going to have a lot of options. So let's just maybe choose something that expires in the next 90 days. We can also set a filter around the strike price. And then we can say whether we want daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly options. Well, since we're just doing the next 90 days, let's just look at all. And then I can go ahead and choose OptionScope, and it will open up here. So let's spend a few minutes talking about the data that's available in OptionScope. So you can now see well, let's just go through it here first. So on this left-hand side, we have calls. On the right-hand side, we have puts. So you can see calls and puts over here. And then as we work inward towards strike, you'll see the Greeks. Now, one thing that's great about the Greek data here is it's all auto-calculated for you. You don't have to do any calculations for the Greeks. It's just automatically calculated. If you're an options trader, the Greeks data is very important to be able to look at. In here, we've included delta, gamma, theta, vega, and rho for you. Things like delta are very important. How much is my option going to move as the stock goes up? Theta is very important. What's my time decay? So these are important things to be able to just quickly look at in here. So as we move in, we have implied volatility. So you can look at implied volatility right here in this column: open interest, volume, net change, percent change, last, and then bid and ask. So you can look at all this data here. So same on the put side. If you see data in blue, that means that it's in the money. If it's gray, it's out of the money. So you can quickly determine what's in the money and out of the money. And then here we have our option expiration date and our strike price. So you can see all this data right here. So up here at the top, you have the current quote for Apple. And then as I scroll down, you can see all this data. Let's actually just narrow down a little bit. And we're going to do that by looking at the filters that are included inside OptionScope. So I can just choose specific expiration dates. So let's just say I wanted 1/17 instead of all these dates. That will take me down just to the options for 1/17. I do have my strike price set to only 15% around the strike. I can remove that by just holding down Control and deselecting, and then it will load in everything for that 1/17 option. So you can apply these strikes in and out as you want. I can set, again, if I had multiple selected, I could just say, hey, I just want to look at monthly. I only do monthly options, or I could do weekly and just say weekly options. And then we can just choose, hey, I only want to see ones that are in the money or out of the money. I do that by just selecting this. And then the only data that will be visible are the ones that are in the money. Okay, so you can see it's grayed out over here, so I'm not really paying attention to what's out of the money. I'm only looking at in the money. And let's just turn that off. We'll just hold Control down and unselect that. And then down here under the Greeks, now the Greeks are auto-calculated for you, but if you want to make changes to the dividend yield and the percent rate, you can change those in there. So that's a functionality, but it does come directly from the feed on what the interest rate is and what the dividend yield is. So it'll auto-calculate that as part of the data for you, so you don't have to do that. So now, as we're talking about options data and what we can do with options data, let's look at a few different workflows of what you can actually do with the options data now inside MetaStock. So these are a lot of new and unique things that you can do. So let's just let's narrow this down. Let's just go down to 5% near the money here. So we just have a few options to look at. Okay, so if I have this open now, this works a lot like QuoteCenter did when we were talking about QuoteCenter. If I want to see an individual option and actually chart the option itself, not the underlying security, but the option, I can just double click on it here, and it will pull up and actually chart the options data for me. So now what I'm looking at is this Apple option. So this is actually a charted option with indicators plotted on it. So you can actually analyze these with indicators now, the actual option itself. So what's this option been doing? Well, it's been coming up in price. It's got, you can actually see the bar charted and actually do some more analysis on it. And so this is a very unique feature. It was cool. I was actually out over the weekend doing a seminar in Toronto and Montreal, and people were just like, wow, I can chart the option. This is so cool. I can do analysis on it. So this is very, very exciting. If I wanted to open up multiple at the same time, I can just select these, and I can open up all of them at the same time if I want to. I can also right-click on this, and I can copy these options to the clipboard. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, what I can now do is I can come back to the Power Console. And one of the things we've done is we've added this custom list button everywhere inside the Power Console. So you can quickly get to custom lists. So if I choose custom lists and then choose new, online instruments, I can call this my options. And I can paste this list right in, hit close. And now if I come in and I want to run a scan on those options, I can. If I want to backtest the options, I can. If I want to just open them up in QuoteCenter, so let's go to QuoteCenter and choose my options and just choose open in QuoteCenter. You'll actually be able to quickly quote these, and you'll see I have my symbol and my name. Could you knock on the window? All right, so you can see that it's very easy to work with your options data and be able to pull it back and forth. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that now. Now, some things that I really like with options data that even if you're not trading options. If you're trading options, this is fantastic because you can get in, you can really hone in on your options, you can really determine what the best course of action is. But what if you're not trading options? How could you use this data? And that's one thing I really like to talk about because options data is actually really important to being able to understand the sentiment of the market. So I'm going to expand this out to 20% on the strike around the option. So let's just take an example. So let's say that you're trading something like Apple and it has a MACD buy signal, or it could be an RSI buy signal, or it could be whatever it is that you're looking for. One of the unique things about options data is you can see where people tend to feel that stock is going in price by looking at volume and open interest on the options. So if I come in here and we're going to do a theoretical buy signal. I don't know if there's a buy signal on Apple today. I haven't checked. But we're going to look at this data. So what open interest is it's the amount of interest in people placing a trade on a particular option. Okay, so right now we have our price on Apple's 244. So we're almost to 245. Well, let's look at what the volume is. So we're looking at about 1594. Our open interest is 39,216. Okay, so that's how many open trades there are. People saying, well, if it hits a certain bid or ask a certain bid, that I will buy. Well, let's go over and look at the put side. Okay, so where are my puts sitting? Is there that same level of open interest on the put side? So over here, I only have 13,222. So there's a lot less open interest on the put side than there is on the call side. So if I have a buy signal, well, that tells me that people are way more interested in the buy side than they are on the short side. So I can really get a good feel by looking at this that there's a lot of open interest on this side versus the put side. So we have a lot more open interest in the buy than we do in the sell. Let's see. I'm getting a few options questions here. Let me just kind of scroll back and we can kind of take these one by one. Is it possible to do a chart line with the implied volatility for options? So, Jacques, that's a great question. You can actually chart the at-the-money implied volatility in real time, but you can't with end of day. There's a specific symbol that's available with real time that's not available in end of day. So you can actually chart that, and you can select whether you want 30, 60, or 90 day implied volatility. So you can actually do that in real time, not with end of day. Chart option spreads. At this point, you're not able to chart the chart option spreads. You could actually build a spread if you wanted to. That's something that is available. You can build it, but it's not going to do it natively. So if you want to build spreads, what you can do is actually call support, and they can actually help you build those. So you can do plus, minus, do whatever customization you want. Let's see. And then Garth, it looks like at the money probability available. Yeah. So again, that's that specific symbol. If you want to do that, let me show you that in real time. I need to remember that specific symbol. We'll try it. Let's just say I was doing the at the money with Home Depot. So I type in Home Depot symbol ATMIV.U. That's actually the symbol for the implied volatility. Let's actually do it with a clean chart here and go to open. So this will actually chart that implied volatility. Let me close OptionScope here for just a moment. And you can see that implied volatility charted here. I'm just going to change it to a line so you can see it a little bit better. So there is that 30-day. If you want to change it, go to Change Field. And you can see you can change it to 30, 60, 90, and you can put the call or put side. Okay, so that is available in real time if you want to do that type of analysis there. Okay, any other questions on options? Let's see. So Barton's saying, but they can be sellers of options when you look at open interest. Well, you're looking at it on the put and the call side. So let's go back here. And let's open it up, and let's go back to OptionScope. And let's pull up Apple. And I'm just going to narrow this, leave that to 90 days there. Okay, so when we have this open, again, what you're looking at is you're looking at open interest in the puts, and you're looking at open interest in the calls. So you're looking at that imbalance right in between them, so you can actually see the open interest on each side. So you're not looking at the specific, you're not looking at a general open interest. It's actually broken out by calls and by puts. So it's a put call ratio, basically what you're looking at. Does that make sense, Barton? So you're right that they can be sellers, but you're just going to be looking at open interest on the put side and open interest on the call side. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on here. So any other questions on OptionScope? Okay, looks like we don't have any other questions from the YouTube side. It looks like we're good on. Okay, Barton, on your question on which way you can do it. So there are people who do covered calls, so you can do those types of things. Is that the kind of question you're asking about there? I'm trying to get an answer on your question there. So, all right, let's go back to our PowerPoint for just a moment. So again, this is completely new for MetaStock to be able to do that options analysis. And we've really tried to make it unique to give you that grid where you can, one of the things I didn't show you is you can still sort on any of the columns, which is something that most broker platforms you're not able to do. You're not able to sort and rank on those columns and really get in on your data. You're not able to chart the data and do that analysis, scan with it, backtest. All these new things that you can do with OptionScope inside MetaStock makes it a very powerful tool. Also, to get that Greek data right in there, have it auto-calculated. You don't have to do any calculations in the background. No math there, which is a great thing. And then you can sort and filter on any of these other columns. All right. So again, OptionScope, you can filter on your criteria like we talked about. You can chart, you can then scan, you can backtest, and do all that. And the great thing is now is putting those options into a watch list that you can just watch from there. You don't have to go find them every time by just putting them into QuoteCenter. Okay, so that's OptionScope, QuoteCenter so far. We still have a lot to cover. How are we doing on time? We're doing awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do now is talk quickly about the downloader. For those of you who are using MetaStock end of day or even real time and you're using the downloader to save local data online, one of the big requests we had was for the ability to be able to use use local data in whatever format you want. So there's a few different MetaStock file formats. There's Legacy, which is our old file format that a lot of other software will use. So if you're using another software platform that reads MetaStock data, you can now actually download that data using the new downloader. Before, you'd have to use our old downloader, which is a little bit frustrating. So now it's really something that's easy now because you can use the same downloader for Legacy, Local, MS Local. You can convert between the two. You can convert to CSV. So it makes it really easy. So I'm just going to show you some examples really quick. We're not going to spend a lot of time downloading and managing data. But let's go to the downloader here for just a moment. So you can see here in my downloader, I actually have set up here MS Local, which is the new improved file format, and some legacy data. So I've got both file formats here. So I can now just choose download. And without having to do any settings or anything like that, MetaStock and the downloader will automatically recognize what file format it is, and it will just download it for you. So you don't have to try and tinker around with it. If you've been using the old downloader, you can just go in and pull up the data, and it will work automatically here for you. So while this is downloading here really quickly, I had another question. Do you have SPX options? So one of the things you can do with MetaStock Zenith, it depends on which version you have. With Zenith, you're actually getting global options. Anything that has an optionable, you can pull up in OptionScope. So if it's the SPX or if it's a commodity that has options on it, you can pull those up. With end of day, you've got the US equity options. So something like that, you'd be looking at the SPY or something like that. So it depends on which version of MetaStock that you have and what you can do. Okay, so that's still downloading. I had a clean file in there, and that's why I wasn't showing any data earlier in QuoteCenter. So we can let this go ahead and churn through, kind of showing you what I wanted to do. But we've made it now so if you're using Legacy, you don't have to use the old downloader anymore. You can just use the new downloader with 17. You don't have to try and manage two downloaders. Everything that you want to be able to do in the downloader is now available in MetaStock 17. So great improvement if you're using MetaStock offline data. Okay, Barton, so yeah, if you have RT, you just need to get 17, and then you'll be able to do all this option stuff. The data is already included inside your Zenith subscription. Great questions so far, everybody. Thank you. Keep the great questions coming. Okay, so this one's awesome. Some of these we're just going to spend a minute or two on. But one of the things you've had to do with MetaStock in the past is every month you'd have to go and download the most recent symbols and make sure that your files were up to date. So now we've made it so your online data files will update automatically. You do not have to go through and do this. Basically, whenever we do an update to the symbol database now, your MetaStock will pop up and say, hey, you've got a new symbol database updated, you're good to go. You don't have to do anything else manually anymore. So awesome stuff. Okay, excuse me, I'm going to take a quick drink of water. I'll mute it for just a second while I do that. Apologies. Okay, so now with real time, you can actually look at pre and post market data. Well, what does that mean? What is pre and post market data? Well, when we're talking about the market, we can always, let's pull up a chart here in MetaStock. Let's close all these options here in the background. And let's pull up a clean chart of Apple. And we're going to make a copy of it. So we'll go window, new window, and we're going to put these side by side. window, new window. Okay, now what I'm going to do is go down to a 5-minute chart. And if we look back in this data, you'll see periods like this where you have a gap. And what happens is this is market close to market open. And overnight, you'll have market open. You also have the ability to, so you have market open, and then you also have post-close trades. So you can actually look at both of those. Okay, so you don't see that here in this 5-minute chart. So if I want to see that, what I can do is I can right-click, go to Chart Window Properties, go to Trading Sessions, and then what I do is I just include pre- and post-market trades. When I do that, you'll see the data looks significantly different. And that gap that I saw is now gone because it actually fills in with that pre- and post-market data of those post-close, pre-open market trades. Okay, so you can pull that data in now. That's been a highly requested feature inside MetaStock Real-Time to be able to pull in those different trades. Okay, our next thing that we're going to talk about is just some user enhancements here. I'm not going to go through this list. We'll talk about it more in a few minutes because we're going to go through a few of these. Okay, so backing up user files. So this one makes it so, let's say you have smart charts, you have custom formulas that you've made, you've got lists that you want to back up just in case. So it's always a good idea to back up your data. You always hear it's very, very good. One of the things is it's always been difficult to do that. You'd have to call support. They could walk you through backing everything up. And we've actually now just made it so I can come in here, go to File, Backup User Files. It'll say, oh, where do you want to back up? Hit Select. And I'm going to overwrite my current backup. Just say yes. And my files are now backed up. Easy as that. So now it'll back up all your files and folders for you. You don't have to do anything beyond that. And then if you need help restoring that, just give support a call and they can walk you through restoring any of your data that you may need on a different computer or you may need somewhere else. So it makes it really easy to be able to do that. Okay, so that's a very easy one. Like I said, some of these are going to take just a second, but they're very nice. Okay, so this one's awesome as well. So what we're going to do here is talk about deleting smart charts. Okay, what a smart chart is this. So let's just say I open up Home Depot and oh, I opened that up as a chart, excuse me. Let me close this for a second. And let's go back to smart charts. So smart charts are something that if I open up a chart and I work with it, okay, and let's just say I draw trend lines on it. I'm just going to make some stuff up here, put on some Fibonacci retracements, and then I make some notes on it. Let's just grab our notes. So let's just say I bought here and then sold at the top because that's the way we work, right? We buy low, sell high. Okay, so if that's what I did, I make all these notes and I then close this. Let's just close this chart. And I come back and I open Home Depot again. It keeps all those notes for me. So that's what a smart chart is. But let's say now that I want to get rid of all these notes across all my charts. Well, what I can do is now I can just go File, Delete Smart Charts. It'll clean out all my smart charts. Click OK, and go back to Home Depot, and it just goes back to my default template. So very easy to clear out smart charts, very easy to work with those. And for now, I'm just going to make this my new default template here. Okay, so that's closing out smart charts. Jacques is asking, are cannabis stocks a new folder section? They are not, but if you need a list of cannabis stocks, you can actually just contact support and they can give you that list and you can just plop it right into your custom list manager. That's very easy to do. Great question, thank you. Okay, so let's go on to no to all. Okay, so this one, it's a funny one, but everybody I've showed it to has loved this one. So let's just say you open up a list of stocks. Let's see if my data is done downloading here in the back. It is. Okay, so now I can open up my local data. Okay, so let's just say I open up a list of stocks here with a template. Let's just open up with this Bollinger Bands template. And I open up a bunch of stocks. Well, if you had opened up a bunch of stocks historically and then wanted to close them all, if I went close all, you'd have to say no to each one individually. So now you can just say no to all, and it will close them all without having to click no. Okay, so that's that one. No to all, fine favorite. So one of the things that we've done, if you've been a long-time MetaStock user, and if you were to go into something, say, like the Explorer, and you wanted to find the MACD, well, what you'd have to do is look through here and see if you could find the MACD. And it was oftentimes confusing because it might be under something like Equistash-MACD or MS16-MACD or Equistash candlesticks. So if you didn't know that Equus is in front of it, it might be hard to find. So we've redone all the files and formulas in MetaStock and put them in alphabetically by the system name. So if I'm looking for MACD, I just have to scroll down and it will be under MACD. Okay, so there's MACD. If I'm looking for candlesticks, you'll find it under candlesticks, not Equus candlesticks. Same in the expert advisor. All the different files and formats now are all alphabetical, indicator drop-down list, all those different things. So easier to find formulas so you don't have to go hunting and pecking for them anymore. Makes your life a little bit easier. Okay, so we've done some things in the Explorer and the System Tester to make it easier to run multiple explorations and also get to your reports. So let's go back here and let's say I'm running the RMO, just as an example. So for the RMO, what we want to do is choose a bullish zone, a new blue bar, and also a swing trade buy arrow. Okay, so now instead of having to go down to summary and then try and figure out how to rearrange it, we've put the scanner options right here. So I can move this down here, I can move this up. So then I can set my scan here. I can also set whether I want to use the results from the preceding exploration or all explorations. So that way I can say, use the selected instrument. So these would run 3 different scans, and this one would filter. So it'd go bullish zone, then new blue bar, and then buy arrow. So it'd run in that order. Okay. The other thing that we've done in the Explorer to make your life easier is instead of going through here and trying to find scans that have the R for results, you can actually now come down here to report, and you can either view all reports, or if you have reports selected, view this selected exploration report. So if I just choose view all reports, this will show me all the scans I've run on this particular in my MetaStock. So this will keep a list of them all right here, when they were run, what date and time, and then I can see them and come back to them very, very easily. So easier way to get to your lists. We've also put that in the System Tester, where you can now click on report and view all your reports without having to go through and check the ones that you want to look at. They're just going to be right here under report. So a lot easier to get to those now as well. We've already talked about building and managing your lists when we talked about QuoteCenter, but just to go back here, somebody was asking about local data in QuoteCenter. Now that I've downloaded data, if I open up QuoteCenter with that, you'll now see my local data load up in here. So you can see that this is MS local file format and what my data file path is as well. So again, you can see you can pull in that local data there. Okay, so just really quickly, some of the things I didn't talk about with the some of these other enhanced features that we've put in. MetaStock now loads faster. It loads about 30 to 40% faster, so we've optimized it quite a bit. It'll remember where you left off when you close it. So let's say you have 20 charts open, you close MetaStock, you come back, it's just going to remember those 20 charts for you, come right back to them. Okay, symbol search is a lot more responsive. It's quicker. We've talked about the easier access to exploration reports, creating custom lists, no to all. The downloader, we've added in some new abilities to adjust data in the downloader if you want to, and then also tabbing and moving between cells. So lots of good upgrades there. And then we always have people who request us to, excuse me, add in new systems and strategies. Somebody's asking me, what's the advantage of local data? Well, the advantage to local data is if you want to run offline, so let's say you're going to be on a plane and you want to analyze charts, or if you're going to be scanning large universes of stocks, it's easier to download that data and have it on your computer to go through quickly rather than, say, going through 10,000 securities online and having to pull them. That data's all right on your computer and you can pull it in. So it can make things faster, or if you need to run offline. Those are the advantages to local data. So the first system that we've put in is Elliott Wave. So we're going to talk about Elliott Wave and how Elliott Wave can actually help in your trading. This is something that's been very highly requested in MetaStock to have these types of waves. And even if you're not an Elliott Wave follower, there's actually some great things that you can do with Elliott Waves as confirmations to trades. So let's talk about that. So, well, who was Elliot? Where do Elliott Waves come from? So R.N. Elliott was an accountant and an author, and he actually would study the market, and what he saw was a lot of psychology behind what was happening in the market. So he did a lot of study and really analyzed the market, and he came up with this Elliott Wave theory. Okay, so these are, and what he came up with are specific patterns, which people call Elliott Waves. They're not double tops, triple tops, head and shoulders, those types of patterns. What we're actually talking about are wave patterns, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So again, he uses it to identify market cycles using psychology, and we're going to talk about 8 different kinds of waves. Now, there's a lot to Elliott Waves, and I don't want you thinking we're going to go into every aspect of Elliott Waves. I'm going to give you a high-level overview. And then we've got some great manuals and things that go behind the Elliott Waves to help you out with it as you go. So, well, what is a wave? So when Elliott talked about waves, he talked about this up and down motion, as we'd expect in the market. We expect an upward movement, a downward movement, an upward movement, and a downward movement. And so what he did is he broke these into 5 different kinds of waves. So you can see these wave counts appear here. And what actually happens is he sets up rules for these waves to actually happen. So wave 1 comes in, and then wave 2 is our downward movement. And of course, it has to come below number 1 to be able to count as a wave. Then we come up to wave 3. Now, what has to happen with wave 3 is price has to come up, and it has to be higher than number 1 for it to be a real wave. Okay, so if it breaks this level, then it would count as a 3 wave. And then when we get to 4, well, 4 has to be above 2 and above 1. It doesn't show that very well here, but it has to be above these levels for it to be counted as a bullish wave. And then we go up to wave 5, and again, it has to be that sequential moving up in order to be counted as a valid wave. So that's what these Elliott waves are. So, well, how can you use these in trading? Well, let's talk about it, okay? So there's actually 2 different kinds of waves. One is a motive wave, and motive waves are waves that actually push the market. They're directional waves, so they can be bullish or they can be bearish. It doesn't have to be one or the other. They're just pushing market in a direction. And these are always labeled 1 through 5. So any motive wave will be labeled 1 through 5. 1, 3, and 5 are our direction. So this is going up, right? So that's our directional wave. 2 and 4 interrupt the direction. So 2 and 4 will break that chain as it goes through. And then we have corrective waves, which are counter trend. So they reverse the direction. So they're opposite of it. And these only have 3 waves, A, B, and C. And we'll show you some examples of these and how you can use them. Okay, so there's 2 types of motive waves. we're not going to get into a lot of detail here. One of them is impulse and one's diagonal. Now, 98% of motive waves are impulse, so don't stress about that. That's not something we're going to get into here. So here's an example of motive waves. So you can see in big green letters here, it may be hard to see on your screen, but this is a 1 right here. And then this is a 2. Up here is a 3. Down here is a 4, okay? So my 1 is a direction wave. My 2 is the interruption wave. Then I have my 3, and then I have my 4. And you can see it follows that pattern of 1, 2, breaks above here, 3, 4, still above here, okay? Now, how am I going to use this as a trader? What's the idea behind it? How is it going to help me? Okay, so if I'm coming down here and I'm in a 1, and I come down to a 2, and then I come up and I break above the 1, well, now I know I'm in a wave 3. Okay, so now I've got movement above the 1 wave to continue up. So it gives me that momentum of the trade to be able to help me identify the trade. So once we break here, you can see we have this continued run. It kind of fell back and then reversed up, but we had a nice directional wave from this interruption. And then we fall down, we hit a 4, and then we move up. So that's kind of the concept. We'll talk about a few other examples. So here's a wave on a shorter time period, kind of compressed in a little bit. So again, we see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we have our 1 come down to our 2. What happens when we break above our 1? We have that ride up the wave to number 3. We come down to number 4. And then as we break above the 3 wave, we move up to a 5. So this can help us look at momentum and what's happening with momentum in our trade. So if you're using this, it's going to be oftentimes a confirmation of the direction of the market for your trade. Okay? So we're going to skip that here. So then on the other side, we have corrective waves. And there's 3 types of corrective waves. We're not going to go into these, but just so you're aware, there's 3 different types. And the software, remember, is going to do all this for you. So you don't actually have to go through and figure out these wave counts. It's going to label them for you and help you know what's going on. So you notice here we have, when it said 1, we've got an A, a B, or a C. So an A, B, and C can be the same as a 1, 2, and 3, or 3 and 4. They're corrective waves. So if we were to look at the larger picture here, you would probably see that this is a counter trend. It's going against what's happening in the overall picture. So keep that in mind. Let's actually go in and let's look at a chart here really quick, and let's look at Elliott waves. Okay, so the way you can apply the Elliott waves, the easiest way to do it is just to right-click, go to Apply Template, and you'll see these different Elliott wave templates here. We're only going to talk about 2 of them. We're going to talk about normal volatility and then normal volatility with SR. And the only difference between these 2 templates is this one is just the Elliott wave counts and some indicators, and this one will automatically give you support and resistance. And I'll show you that difference here in just a moment. But let's go ahead and put on Elliott waves on Apple. Okay, let's just scroll back. Now, one of the things you want to do with Elliott waves, and I'm going to do this right now, is I'm just going to double click down here. The more data you can load with Elliott waves, the better. And the reason for that is it's looking over long periods of time to really help you understand what's happening with your counts. So let's just zoom in here and let's look for some examples, okay? So here is our 1 wave. Then it comes down to the 2. So this is that exact same chart example we were looking at just a moment ago. Okay, so I can see my 1 and 2, but I want to zoom in here and just look at these smaller ones. So do wave counts always continue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? They do not. You may have a failed wave. Let's actually zoom up and see if we have something current that we can look at for this. Okay, so here is our 4. And right now, what is Apple doing on this large wave count that we looked at? 3, 4. Has it broken above the 3? It has. So are we moving into a wave 5? We are. So it's got this breakout now that we're actually moving into the 5. If it didn't break above this, well, that would be a failed 5. So it's a failed wave. Okay. So they don't always happen, but you want to watch for these breakouts to help you confirm. Okay. So we're starting to run out of time here, so I'm going to go a little bit over if that's okay with everybody. We'll go through the presentation, make sure that we cover everything that we need to. Okay, so that's the way Elliott Waves can help us here, is actually being able to identify these counts. So here's a smaller example: 1, 2, 3, 4, waiting for a 5, because we've broken across that 3 wave here on the smaller level as well. So Elliott Waves can actually be very powerful in helping you determine market direction. We'd also see them to the bearish side if we were analyzing it. So that's some ways that you can use Elliott Waves. Just really quickly to show you this with support and resistance. Okay, so if I go down to Elliott Waves and I look with normal volatility with support and resistance, you'll see this will automatically draw trend lines on there, and then also help me look at support and resistance along with the Elliott Wave. So it's very powerful in that way. Okay, so the other thing that you can do is it looks at different measurements of volatility, and it does that by looking at what's called amplitude. So it'll go fast, moderate, normal, or slow. And amplitude is just really movement of the market. Okay, so you may have a compression that things are moving very slowly or very quickly, and it can analyze it for you and look at those different wave counts in a sequence for you. So we've already talked about this. I did not show you the expert commentary. The expert commentary is fantastic because what it does is it'll actually tell you, based off the amplitude or the movement of the market, what wave you're in. So here it was saying Apple was on a fast was in a bearish wave 2, moderate bullish wave 2, normal bullish wave 2, and slow, it didn't have a listing in there. And then it'll walk you through what's going on with this actual chart and how to actually use those Elliott Waves right on your chart. And then it'll give you pivot points and it'll help you determine that. Because Elliott Waves all about support and resistance, it's about pivot levels, it's about all those different things. So that's a recap, a quick overview of Elliott Waves. Obviously there's a lot more to Elliott Waves, but again, the help's there for you. We've got some great documentation behind it, and we'll have other videos that will be coming out to help you with Elliott Waves as well. You can also scan for waves inside here. So let's just say I was looking for a wave C. So when I scan and I get a number 6, that means it's a wave C. And then the next number will tell me how many bars ago it happened. So this actually happened 148 bars ago. So I had a wave C 148 bars ago. So I can look at what's going to happen next. So you can use this as a guide as well in the Explorer. Okay, so that's our recap of Elliott Waves. We're going to talk now about the next system that's included, called Special K. Now, Special K is based off of Martin Pring's work. Martin Pring is very well known for an indicator that was called KST. Now, the KST is included in a lot of software packages that you'll get. It stands for No Sure Thing. It's KST here, stands for No Sure Thing. So you know something's happening. The KST is actually a momentum indicator. Okay, it helps us give a measurement of momentum and what's happening with momentum. So if you're a momentum trader, the KST is a great indicator to use. And basically what happens is you look at this KST and then you put a moving average over it, and that gives you buy and sell signals. So as you can see here, this is the KST, which is built into MetaStock. And you can see the buy and the sell are basically when the KST crosses with the moving average. And it gives very good buy and sell signals on momentum. So it's a very robust indicator. But if you were to want to confirm that and actually even have a more robust view of it, that's where the special K comes in. So what Martin Pring did with the special K is he actually uses it and it analyzes multiple time frames and puts them together into one indicator. So if we look at this chart over here, we've got this solid green line here, which is the primary trend, which is looking over 9 months to 2 years. Okay, so this is the primary trend. Then we go to the intermediate trend, which actually goes from 6 weeks to 9 months. And then we go down to the short-term trend, which is 2 to 6 weeks. And what the special K does is it actually combines these together to give you one indicator. Okay, so that's what we've talked about here. But if we can identify these reversals at an early stage, it can help us in a very short-term view to know when to get in and when to get out. Okay, so the benefits of the special K, it signals primary trend reversals at an early stage and then tells you when the short-term opportunities are developing in that direction. And oftentimes what happens is you want to compare the KST with the special K and look for a confluence of the two to come together to give you a more powerful signal. Okay, so what is special K? Well, we've already talked about it. It's combining all these together, and what's left is this special K indicator. So now this is the special K. So it's just looks like a standard indicator plotted on a chart. And what we look for are the peaks and troughs to determine buys and sells. So you can see when we have these peaks, it often will signify that the market direction or the direction of the security is about to change. So you can see these lineups here. Now, is it 100%? No, no indicator is. But it gives you a much better view of what's actually happening with that security by looking for those peaks and troughs when those peaks and troughs are happening. And an even more robust way is to actually combine it together with the KST. Okay, so you get the KST giving you the buy and sell signals, and then you look for that trough with the special K, and when you have those align, it's a much more powerful signal than just looking at one or the other alone. Okay, so there's an expert that will actually highlight the bars for you to tell you when they are in agreement. So you can see here when they're in agreement, it will turn green and will give these signals. And then when they're in agreement bearish, it'll turn red. If it's black, that means they are not in agreement. There's no current consensus between the two indicators. So if you use these together, it'll actually give you some very good signals. Okay. And then there's also explorations built in for this, so you can go in and look use the explorations to look for these confluences between the two. So the last thing here we're going to talk about is just the RMO for just a moment. The RMO is probably one of the most popular systems built into MetaStock that comes in out of the box. So if I apply the RMO template to Apple, we'll go down to RMO. And what you'll see here is we've got the RMO. Now, if you're not familiar with the RMO, we've got some great videos to show you how to use the RMO and what it does. But what's great is we've actually now put in a checklist for you. So if I go up here and go to View Expert Commentary, I'll just dock this to the side. What will move for me? Okay, so what we're seeing here is we've got now the RMO, and what it'll do is it'll tell you what you need to look up for a buy setup. So for a buy setup, we need to identify a bar that is blue in color, which is preceded by a blue arrow, and most importantly, the RMO should be positive. The RMO denotes the primary trend and is the green histogram on the top. So we have we've got the RMO above 0, we've got a blue arrow, and our bars are blue. So when those all come together, that's a trigger. So we also have the conditions for a sell setup, and then a checklist of what you're looking for in the RMO. So there's some great commentary there to help you out with the RMO, always making the RMO even better and including that now inside MetaStock 17. So here, coming back, here's kind of what we've talked about today. And again, if you have questions, you can feel free to put them into the chat box. So our new features are QuoteCenter OptionScope, being able to work with legacy file format in Downloader 17, pre and post market data, the set 14 user enhanced usability features, and these are suggestions from customers. These are what people have been asking for in MetaStock. So we're really trying to listen to what you as a user want and what you want to be able to do in MetaStock. And then we've included the Elliott Wave System, Martin Pring Special K, and the RMO commentary window. Now what we're going to do here just really quickly is show you some of the specials that we have going on with MetaStock 17. So what we're going to do here is we've just launched our holiday catalog. So I'm going to go to metastock.com and then go to /HS19. And if we go to metastock.com/HS19, you're going to see all of our offers that are available for the upgrade. So I'll just zoom in just a little bit here. So if you are a current MetaStock customer, you can actually just choose to upgrade, and then you'll log in. It'll ask you what your upgrade, it'll tell you what your upgrade price is, but you can see it right here. So we've got some great specials where we're discounting MetaStock as a release. If you're end of day, you've got a free month of the US equity option data to go along with it. And then you also get what's called the Unleash the Power of MetaStock, which is about 2.5 hours of video plus a PDF ebook to walk you through a lot of the different workflows inside MetaStock, especially with the new version to kind of help you walk through. So you can see your upgrade pricing here, whether you have version 16 or 15 and below, what your upgrade price is. Then RT. Now remember with RT, with OptionScope and QuoteCenter, what you can do is just look at your upgrade price here. You get options included in your package already. So if you're end of day, just take that free month, try out the options data, see if it helps you. If you're new to MetaStock, we've got some great deals on buying MetaStock as a brand new customer and getting started with it. And then to also celebrate, we're giving $100 off all of our add-ons. So any of our add-ons, you can get $100 off. Some of them are even a little bit more, like value charts is $500 off. Most are $100 off. So you can get any of these specials by doing one of the following three things. Just going to metastock.com/HS19, calling this number right here, the 800-587-8057, or when you're on the HS19 page, click on live chat, and they can take care of helping you out. One of the great things about this upgrade is you do get a 30-day money-back guarantee as always, so you can try the upgrade, see if it helps you be more beneficial, see if it's more beneficial in your trading, and if it's not, you can return it to us for a refund. But like I said earlier in the presentation, this upgrade has fundamentally changed the way I use MetaStock and what I'm looking for in trades. So I think you're going to love it. I think you're going to really like it. If you want to learn more when you're on this HS17 page, just click this Learn More in our catalog page, and it's got a list of all the different features, give you some more overview of them, give you some more detail, and you can learn more there as well. But for now, go to metastock.com/HS19 and take advantage of the special upgrade offers. Thank you for coming, everybody. If you do have any questions, feel free to chat into our support or our sales line, and they can help you get started with MetaStock 17. We'll help you get all that. And if you have suggestions for us, certainly let us know as well. Richard, thank you for your suggestion there. I will make note of that. And I'm just going to go through and look at any other questions now. Yeah, so if you need help, Martin, just contact support. They can show you how to do spreads. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the feedback and the comments. Yes, a great upgrade. We're very excited about it as well. All right, looks like we've got all the questions other than that answered throughout the presentation. Otherwise, go ahead and go to metastock.com/HS19. Pick up your copy of the upgrade or your new version of MetaStock with all the new features. You're going to love it. And thank you, everybody, for spending a little over an hour with me today and learning more about MetaStock 17.